Stellaris, the first 9 things I do when I start a Grand Admiral game. I wanted to share this with you, so you can also get a good start into the game every time. This is for you, the beginners, the seasoned, the comparers. This is what I do to get a solid start in my Stellaris Grand Admiral games. So I've been wondering, you know, I'm a Grand Admiral player in Stellaris, usually winning, and there's this fixed routine that you develop if you play Stellaris and again and again and again because you like the game so much. So I wanted to show them, I wanted to share it, I wanted to know what you think of it. Maybe I wanted to give you a tool if you're a new player to start the game well, really well. You will prosper if you do these things. Like, I've summed it up to do nine things together, so we're going through 9 things that we can do, and these will all really help you to get a great start. So let's get this. For the example here, I've made a theocratic republic because there's a couple of things that you can do at the start if you have like egalitarian, if you have pacifist, if you have spiritualist things. You can do a couple of things right at the start that are really to your advantage, and I just wanted to show you these things as well. As you can see, there's some civics that unlock some buildings and so on, and we've also chosen syncretic evolution, so I can show you a little bit more in the species tab. So first thing I do is I send my constructor here. My construction ship needs to go, usually looking around here. Yeah, we have some kind of thing free here where we can build a mining station, and the limiting thing at the start is you don't have enough minerals. Usually you get 20 per month here. That's not much. So you want more minerals. First thing you do is you build a mining station. Well, that's the thing. But that's not all. You also shift click and go to the next thing. You can see if you have activated the resources here. Details map mode. You can see that there's 2 other things that you can develop in your home system. Maybe you should do that. So you shift click here, and you, of course, you don't have the minerals yet, but you just enter orbit, so you don't lose time. It will move straight to the point where it's needed next. That's your constructor. So then next thing. You have the science ship here. It's pretty straightforward. So you have Jondra here, a scientist, ready to explore space. So we've been starting on a continental world, as you will do with the most popular, the humans, of course. And you can already see here we have the luck to have a Gaia world nearby. Are you kidding me? That never happens in my games usually, but like you want a habitable world there. Something out of the cosmos. Like, continental is in the wet world, so if you have an ocean world or a tropical or a continental world that you can already see nearby, you send that ship to survey that system. Now, if you don't see these worlds, if you have default settings, you have a minimum of 2 habitable worlds in the vicinity, which means like a maximum of 2 jumps away. 1, 2. So here, 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 here. That's usually the farthest these are away. Some rare times it's also 3 jumps away, but you should look for them. So what do you do if you don't see something like that? You explore. Like you don't survey the system. As you can see, these systems you cannot explore because you can already see roughly what you have there because you have a system nearby. But these systems, for example, you can explore, which means your ship flies in there and makes a quick assessment of what's in there, and then you can see if there's a planet habitable for you in that system. Now, so fly around, find these things, and note them down, because if you fly out of the systems that are out of your sensor range, then they'll disappear again. So really note down where they are. Make a short note. In this case, we have that system here nearby, and that's really perfect. You want to survey that system quickly, so you can build an outpost there, things like that. So that's the science, the short science ship strategy for the start. Just survey when you have a habitable planet. Otherwise, find a habitable planet, then survey the path to the habitable planet and build some outposts there so you can make a colony. So, you should decide to do what you want to do with your capital planet. Like you have the Empire capital here, usually you have a mix of everything. That's just your civilization. It's a mix of everything, and you can see what you have available here. You have available jobs. Usually you have worker jobs available, the clerks. That's the usual thing. Clerk jobs are not that great. They give you some trade goods, they give you some amenities, but really not much. They are not that great. So you wonder, do I specialize my capital? What I often do is, you have a trade system in Stellaris where basically all the trade flows to your capital where it gets capitalized on. So the trade gets converted into, if you don't change it much, into just energy credits. Trade is really easy to come by. It's like a low-tech form of extremely high energy income, and because it's so flexible and you can use it in the market to buy all the resources, it would be a good decision to make just some commercial zones there, and a mix of districts and commercial zones, and really use your capital. At least if you use at least a moderate map to just get what you need, right? It's a mix of everything. You can really specialize it in a very short term. So you might as well use it if you're low on minerals. You might build a mining district if you want more alloys early on. Build some alloys, producing industrial districts, things like that. So it's there to avoid these things going into the miners if you want it like very much. But you can also go for a specialization if you have a certain plan. Now you could say, hey, I want to start with a lot of unity. Get all these traditions out quickly, then you can build more temples, for example, in this case, or holo theaters, or administration buildings, things like that. That makes a lot of sense. You can also specialize, for example, in research. That kind of makes sense. And you can also go for an early specialization in alloys, which is probably the most useful if you're in a multiplayer game where you quickly need ships. Then you specialize in alloys early on. It's a no-brainer to do that in a multiplayer game, building some alloy foundries and things like that. But we're not that far. It's just thinking about what you want to do with your capital, and then you can see what you do. What you really should look into is the features, the planetary features here. There's one especially important feature, like if you get to the 300 energy credits, quickly do that. Clear that blocker. Because if you clear the sprawling slums on your planet, then you get another extra pop for free. That's pretty, well, you get it for 300. But it's a pretty quick way to get another pop, and it's pretty useful to get it early on. It's really nice if you have these, just staying around there, just use them to get that pop. Give the pop something good to do that you need at the moment, and you're set. So that's the third thing. Look around the capital, make a plan for, or you can make a short calculation when you will be ready to have the 300, and then do that as quick as you can. You make the first research choices. These things remind you. So what do you do there? In general, you use things that don't need a lot of investment. So why would I build a fusion reactor now? It needs me to invest in ships to make the fusion reactor viable. Now, if you're in multiplayer, it's a different thing, right? You might want to invest in good ships early on. But if you're in single player, just playing against the AI on a very high level, which I usually do, then you choose something that you don't have much investment in, and you can very easily calculate what's best here. Like, you could get research station output 10%, or you could get quantum theory research from researchers 20%, and then you can just look here, and you can see that you get around 10 from jobs, and 10 from base, and nothing from research stations. So here you get 3 from stations, and here you get, so you get 30 from jobs, and 20% from 30 is way more than 10% from 3. So the correct choice here is physics research. You just improve your researchers and you don't need no investment to be made, except of course for the research points. So that is something that will help you early on. Other options include like increasing your Unity output, grants a lump sum of Unity. That can be really helpful, especially if it's not locked in. Right? Planetary unification is a good thing, and you have, with some empires, you have it at the start, and it's below here and has like something yellow around it, and it will not go away as a choice. But if you get it early on, it's good to get that. And here we have really the prime picks that you want. Pop growth speed is always a very good choice, and if you have a scientist specialized in that, all the better, go for that. It's probably the best early on choice, together with planetary unification. And after that, biodiversity studies. You don't have to invest much. You get a lot from it. I would start with genome mapping here, or with planetary unification. Just get that thing going. Yeah, it's really a tough choice. It's like going into paradise land. Then you have engineering. Same thing, you have afterburners here, which would be a good thing for ships, but standardized corvette patterns, a little bit less cost for corvettes, really useful, but you don't want to build corvettes at the start of the game. If you're starting on Grand Admiral, you don't need corvettes. Maybe after like 8 to 10 years you start building more corvettes, but now go for these things that give you like a benefit for no investment. Now something that you should really check on the policies. The policies can be pretty interesting. Depending on what you start with, the game sets like a standard for you, but you might not like that standard. For example, setting the first contact protocol to proactive, if you have an empire that's viable for diplomacy, is a really good idea, because it makes the first contact process way easier for you. And as you can see, it also increases first contact discovery speed. Being cautious is also a good thing. Being aggressive, yeah, if you play a destroyer empire, that might be the one you set it to, or if you want to play destroyer style. But in general, if you play like a normal empire with normal diplomacy, like the humans or something like that, then go for proactive. It makes it easier, and you also gain more influence from the first contact process, which helps a lot with expansion again. So that's something to look for. And also look into the initial border status. If you want positive relations with the other empires and don't want to destroy them, then choose the open initial border status, because the closed status will usually give you a negative modifier for your diplomacy. And when playing on Grand Admiral, you already have a huge negative modifier, so you make sure you be as friendly as possible, at least as long as you're not super powerful. So that's one of the things. And what you should also check is like robotic workers. Now we have robotic workers allowed, but we're spiritual, so you might want to outlaw them. But it's not really that necessary to do that at first. You can do it always at a later point, but if you do it at first, after 10 years that cooldown goes away, and for changing that goes away, and you can change it again. So there's that. That's usually when some significant things happen. So refugees, that's also interesting for you. Like if you want to play Xenophile, you can set it on refugees welcome, and you might sometimes get out of randomness some refugees from space. Just if you want to have a Xenophile mix anyways, this is the way to get more population. If you don't want a mix, choose citizen species only. If you want no refugees as a xenophobe or something like an empire, then choose no refugees. Population controls, slavery, and purge. Like purge, you could also set to prohibited. That gives you, with most empires, a bonus to diplomacy. With the empires that will be friendly to you, it gives you usually a bonus, and that will be the only empires that you will get into pacts or something like that with. So if you want to play the diplomatic game, really set the purge to prohibited. So that will really help you with it. Like with the wars, I would wait if you have contact with the Empire, and you might see if they want to prefer you to have only defensive wars or things like that if you were desperate for a partner early on, which can be a prudent thing to do in Grand Admiral, to get an early defensive pack partner until you've settled a bit and got a bit on the AI, gained a bit on the AI's huge starting bonus. Then we're going into the species tab. For that reason, I've taken two species here, and you can see you can set the default rights, and you should really look into that, because some ethics allow you other living standards. As you can see, we could set it to social welfare, which would give us more happiness in general, and happiness increases, for example, some production, and it also increases stability. So it's kind of a buff for everything, and not a very huge buff, but a good buff. Unemployed pops would have normal happiness and produce unity, so if you for some reason have some unemployed pops, it's not that bad. Same as utopian abundance, that's even better. There's a 20% happiness unless there is a consumer goods deficit. Consumer goods deficit means if you have no more consumer goods and negative income for that. So unemployed pops have normal happiness and produce unity and also research points. But it's huge, so you might want to save and try these out and see the consequences of an early change. An early change can profit you can profit from really much. You can see the political power changing, but that's not really that much of a change in gameplay actually. For example, if you go for a research first strategy, you might set your people to academic privilege. The prerequisite for that is having a materialist ethos, and then you might just set part of or the full people into academic privilege, increasing their research output. Then you can see that you can sometimes also change, like maybe you have other robots, you can also set their rights a little bit, and you should look into that, just to maybe give them the same rights if you want to avoid trouble with that, or if you want to exploit them, give them less rights. Same is it for slavery empires. You might have some enslaved people, and you can look at their rights, set them, and be done with it, so that you have something that is good for your strategy, or that makes you happy. Just in general, makes you happy. Then you look into the situation log. I like to play democracies, so you get little quests from that. In that case, revered elder Cognati was elected on a platform of constructing at least 2 generator districts. So somewhere in the term that you have in the democracy, that's 10 years, you want to build these 2 districts and get 6 months worth of your unity output for it. So that's not a small thing. It's also not a really big thing. So if it goes like against all that you've planned, then just ignore it. But usually, if it kind of fits in, it will help you along the way, and it's useful to do these quests. So you look into that, and you think, okay, that's something I have to put into the notes, and that will be useful to consider for the rest of the game or for the rest of the session. Then we're looking also into planets and sectors shortly. Sector settings. Yeah, there might be some people who automate this. I don't recommend automating it. Even if you're a new player, just do it yourself. You will learn it quickly then. So I don't usually automate, only maybe in later games when there's just tons and tons and tons of things to do, and I'm super powerful anyway. It's just about mopping this up, or it's just about beating an endgame crisis. And the others can do that, like the AI can do that. And then I come back and see it, and I usually scream. But then the endgame crisis will be done, and everything will be good. So it's just a time saver, but it makes your gameplay less good. And as a final thing, you look into the edicts, right? Edicts. So we have a lot here because I've chosen a couple of good choices that give you like more cool selections here. And there's also something that you should look into here. There's a discovery tradition that you might get early on, like here in 9 months, that could give you map the stars that will greatly improve your exploration. So if you're into science and exploration, you should really get this going early on. But now let's have a look again at the edicts and what you can do early on. After, now, this is the edicts fund, so you have 20 free Unity available for using an edict. The rest of that, like if you use 2 of these, 2 times 13, 26, then you will have to pay for the rest. The 6 Unity extra will be paid for with your Unity income. So you will have 6 less here because you've used it for edicts. It can still make sense to use it. So you can activate these only after a month when you have some Unity income. Then you have like the 13 Unity income, and then you can use it. So you get a reduction if you see here if you're a spiritualist. So that's always helpful for you. You have a few edicts that you should use early on if you can afford them. It's really nice. I mean, encourage political thought doesn't make sense at the start. Fortify the border really doesn't make sense at the start too. You can use it if you have nothing else, right? But Veneration of Saints, for example, is pretty good as spiritual empire. It increases your priest output. So mainly it increases your Unity output for an investment of nothing, if you only choose that. And we also have the peace festivals here. That's a pacifist edict that lasts also until cancelled, and it will increase your happiness by 10%, which just gives you a buff on everything that your pops do. So you get a little bit more of everything from your pops if you have 10% more happiness, and makes your empire just a little bit more stable. So these are the 2 things that you should do directly at your first month. So looking at that and say, yeah, because really the edicts, there's nothing here reminding you of the edicts, but you should really look into them and remind yourself, yeah, that's what I'm going to do after the first month. That's a really good idea, and that will help me. Like priest output plus 20%, for example. Here we have an output from jobs, Unity from jobs 38, but we all know it's only priest output, so we're looking into that. We see the priests. 1 priest produces a certain amount, and these 4 priests produce 22 Unity. So if you have 20% more output, that gives you 4 more Unity. That's pretty cool for an investment of absolutely nothing. Like okay, these 13 Unity, but it's something that you should quickly do. And then you're set up there, and usually you take one of these ethics edicts and then combine it. If you love exploration like I do, you combine it with a map the stars edict, and then you have like very cool systems around you because you find more anomalies with a map the stars edict. These usually lead to better early systems, and then you have some pretty cool systems around you that you can settle on early on. And yeah, it just gives you a good solid start, and it makes the game so much more fun to have that all set up early on. So there's also that little trick still where you like dismantle some of your corvettes and the weapons of them, and then get some extra alloys. I'll quickly show you. It wouldn't be included in my 9 things, but I'll quickly show you how it goes, so you can decide if you do it. It's the main use for this. When I use it is to quickly get to the planets, to the habitable planets with a colony ship. So quickly building a colony ship. So what you do to quickly build a colony ship is you quickly buy some consumer goods, and so you have 200 because you need 200 consumer goods, you need 200 alloys, you need 200 food. You already have 200 food, but not consumer goods nor alloys. So you speed it up by buying some consumer goods early on because you usually have enough energy income for that. And for the alloys, you wait, but you can speed it up just a tiny bit if you do that trick with getting alloys. And why is the good old trick viable? Because you don't really need your corvettes early on, except you're using one of the pre-made empires. Then they might have quests, and you might have some visitors that visit you with ships that attack you, and then you need these early on. So you don't do that with the pre-made empires, but you do it like you can do it just right now. And what you do is you go to the ship designer. So you have that corvette design. You set up a new corvette design, and to that thing away. So you can design. Then you auto-complete the ship here. What you then do is you remove all of that. You clear the design again. Then you have these minimum things here set up. Some things you can even do away with. You can set no FTL drive and even build them. And you just call that design the crab corvette or something. You can see this thing that has auto upgrade, and the crab corvette has nothing like that. Then you go into the fleet manager. Look at these. Oh yeah, there's that thing that's called retrofit. And you can convert your ships into the crab corvette class. You do that, so you basically prepare it, but then you have to click that button, upgrade fleet. And when you upgrade, or downgrade rather, these ships, when you dismantle a lot of their weaponry and stuff, then you'll get, in that case, 145 alloys, which is actually enough to build. So that goes really quickly. That's just a few days. And then you can build a colony ship very early on if you manage to buy some consumer goods. So that's the last trick. And I quickly show you how quickly you can get these things. So if you're really keen on like building, I don't know, a lot of science ships early on, that's the way to get more alloys quickly. But you have a plan for that. Just don't do it blindly, because retrofitting and backfitting them with weapons costs you a little bit more than this brings you in alloys. So it's an early boost at a very small cost, but it's something that can help you boost out your first colony ship, or like that next science ship, or an early outpost if you don't have alloys at the moment. Use it as you see fit. Thank you for watching, and happy gaming to you. Have a great time with Stellaris or otherwise. And until next time, with a new guide or a let's play or whatever. Have a great time. Until then, make sure to subscribe if you like that video, so you don't miss out on the videos, and activate the bell button. And yeah, I'd be happy to see you again there. I try to make these little tutorials, guides for now, that I see sometimes not really done by the big YouTubers. So I'm here to help the people who start with a game in a very uncomplicated way, quickly, concisely. That's the mission, along with roleplay on Grand Admiral. That's my other thing. And a couple of other games from time to time that you also see on the channel. Have a great time, and see you around.